What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls postgame. Come to you live on Saturday night, October 12th. Bulls don't get the win over the Memphis Grizzlies, but a lot of fun stuff and a lot of positives to take from their second preseason outing. I'm Pack Bulls _Pack. We got our guy Law on the draw, rocking with us behind on those producers' controls.
What up?
We will hear from Will Gottlieb from the UC later on tonight for some Go Talk, his inside access, and filling in for Big Dave, who's off gallivanting around foggy London town in anticipation of their NFL game against the Jags tomorrow. It's our old friend and former CHGO Bulls teammate, Mark K, filling in. What's up, Mark?
Woo!
Matthew, how are you? How you been, mate?
I'm wonderful, buddy. I'm so happy to see you. I appreciate you jumping in, dusting off the mic, coming out of retirement for a night to hang out with us and talk some hoops, buddy.
Look, more than happy to fill in for whenever your other co-hosts are too lazy to show up. And if it's preseason, so I'm assuming everyone else that you asked probably turned you down and probably had better things to do. But when a mate asks for help, I call. That's how I like to think about it, right?
That's how we've always known you, buddy. And no, for the record, Mark was my first ask out of the gate when I realized I had no one to do postgame with tonight. So look, Mark, try as you might to avoid this team, you're still sitting here watching preseason games. Good on you. Let's start with, obviously, the headline. We will talk about how some of these young Bulls looked great. Some of them looked less great. But Zach LaVine, who had a very quiet last season version of Zach LaVine in their first preseason game on Tuesday, he had an all-star version of Zach LaVine game tonight, Mark. 28 points in just 22 minutes on very efficient shooting, 9 of 12 from the field, 6 of 6 from downtown. Also was perfect from the free throw line, dished out 4 dimes, grabbed a couple of steals on top of that. This is the Zach LaVine that the rest of the NBA might want in a midseason trade, Mark.
Are you trying to sell him off right now? Is that what you're doing? I feel like you're in full salesman mode, just trying to make contact with all these other GMs around the league. Like, hey guys, did you catch that first half against the Memphis Grizzlies?
Who watched Zach LaVine last night? Because it should be everybody.
Yeah, no, look, being serious for a moment, like that was the Zach LaVine professional scorer mode that we know he can activate. It probably was a little bit easier for him to get into that swing of things as well with Kobe out of the lineup too, whereas obviously against Cleveland, I alluded to it just then, but it helps that they're obviously playing the Grizzlies' third string guys. But I think also with Kobe sort of being out of the lineup and it being very clear as to who was the lead creator or the lead wing scorer for this team tonight, it probably helped or enabled Zach to get into that rhythm. And then we all know what Zach LaVine can do when he is in rhythm. The dude can shoot, the dude can score, he can get to the rim, did all those things. He's one of the purest scorers in basketball. He's one of the purest shooters in basketball. And it's not surprising to see him go off like this. I guess what's encouraging is that we haven't seen him do this for quite some time, damn near a year. So he's clearly still able to do it. And that should be hopefully a positive thing for some Bulls fans, but maybe potentially other NBA teams as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's interesting you bring up the fact that Kobe sat tonight. Maybe we'll get another update from Billy after the game, but it was groin tightness, I believe, on the injury report. And obviously, if there's anything going on, and it's a preseason game, no risk and no point in throwing him out there. But with Kobe out, Zach maybe having a greater opportunity to say, hey, give me the reins, especially out of the gate here. See if we can get this starting five off to a better start than the 8-0 hole they built for themselves in Cleveland on Tuesday. And it makes you wonder, because we've seen Kobe and Zach coexist before, on a handful of occasions throughout their tenure as Bulls teammates. But when you're talking about Zach LaVine and what he can do and reminding the league what he can do if he and the Bulls are still going to try to look for a partner for him midseason, while also keeping at least one eye focused on this youth movement and some of these other pieces that are here, many of whom, showed out tonight. How do you see Billy juggling, hey, Zach LaVine is here and he is an all-star caliber player with, he said, I think media day and a number of other times, like the good elite version of Zach LaVine who's healthy fits well into this faster paced offense they're going to try and run this season.
Yeah, I think he absolutely does. Let's see if the Bulls can maintain that or transition to that type of offense. I think if you want to be that type of offense, a lot of it starts on defense as well. And we kind of know what this defense is probably going to look like. So them being a high transition type or fast scoring, quick ball moving team. You can do that in the half court, obviously, but it's easier to get that going off transition, and obviously you get into transition by forcing stops. But assuming the Bulls can get into that and play that sort of basketball, then Zach is prime to be in that type of mode. I think what's interesting for Billy, like the fans, again, I'm sort of watching from afar now, but it kind of feels like all the fan base wants to move into that rebuilding phase of this team, right? But then you've still got Zach, you've still got Vooch, you've still got some of these older guys, not Dalen, Javon Carter.
You saw Javon and Torrey out there tonight.
You've still got this old guard there that maybe are stopping you from progressing to something a little bit different. So what Billy's trying to do right now is trying to do multiple things at one time. He's trying to do the whole developing thing, playing the young guys, reinstall or change the offense, all whilst having to placate Zach and Vooch. And I say placate, and I mean that in the best possible ways. They're not being disruptive. They're not being, issues in the locker room or anything of that nature, or even on the court. But you've still got these two ideals, I suppose, in terms of what you're trying to do on court, but maybe what you should be doing more holistically, which you guys have been speaking a lot about. So, but we know Zach, what he can do. We know that he can fit in this style of offense. And with Kobe, I think those two guys on the perimeter within this type of offense, it makes complete sense. But it makes sense for one singular game or, a portion of a season. Does it make sense for the entire season, next season, beyond? Like, that's obviously the bigger, grander takeaway.
Indeed. Fred Polo 69 in the comments saying, "Who the heck are we going to replace Zach with? Please stop before we have no points." Well, hey, look, maybe Cooper Flagg can score some points for them, but
THT,
dude, THT is making this roster. I am sorry, owner Al Patim. Like, much love to you, buddy. He did not see the floor tonight. I wonder if Billy will be asked about that after the game. He is on that non-guaranteed deal, and THT has, in these first couple of preseason games, put his name out there. A lot of positives from some of these young guys, but I feel like before that, let's get to the icky part. And because our guy Marquet is here, notorious P. Will denier, I feel like we have to, because the comments are blowing up about Patrick Williams right now, Mark. Sal Garcon saying Patrick Williams is a disaster, a $90 million one at that. Wow. Ostis Jr., Patrick Williams equals sunk cost fallacy. Karan Odell giving him at least a little credit for his defense, but saying Pat looked horrible offensively. No surprise there. Patrick Williams, 1 of 9 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3-point range. I believe I also saw a tweet from Casey Johnson saying after Pat checked out for the final time tonight, playing just 18 minutes, he, through his 2 preseason games, has as many turnovers as rebounds, and he is not shooting the ball particularly well. What do you make of this start for Patrick, Mark?
Yeah, well, I guess on the turnover thing, like, it's not like he's had a lot of turnovers, so which is good, but at the same time, that means he hasn't had many rebounds. But no, I mean, part of me, the logical part of my mind is like, all right, this dude's barely played basketball. Well, he hasn't played basketball in a long time, right? We want to be cautious. We want to do the whole, he's come off a notable injury. We need to give him time. He's only 23, all that sort of stuff. But then the less rational portion of my mind, at least that's how I'm going to frame it, but I like to think it is still the rational part. I don't know. Like, I know Big Dave has been calling it the no excuses tour, but like, that's kind of where I've been with Pat for the last 2-3 seasons. So I want to give him some grace, but yeah, it was bad. It was really bad tonight. He did have some good defensive moments at center. Like that's maybe something we can talk about. The Bulls going small, Pat playing 5. Initially, I didn't like it. I still didn't really love it, but he did some things disrupting Zach Giddey when he was sort of playing the 5 position, and Giddey was trying to post him up. So there were some okay moments then, but in terms of his offensive game, we can't blame DeMar DeRozan anymore, and Pat just still looks extremely, extremely raw offensively. And I don't think it's a matter of this guy just needs more reps or people need to get out of the way, and it's always been there. I just don't think he has the tools or skill set to be what some people think he can be. And look, maybe I'm being harsh. It's still very early, obviously. He's coming back from injury, all that nonsense. But Not a
But
great
it's the
start.
no excuses tour, Mark.
No excuses. No.
Connor in the comments saying the bar has been set so low for P. Will, and yet incredibly he still finds a way to disappoint. I really don't want to do this in preseason game 2, but come on, man, at least give me something. Johnny Pigeon saying I've gone from can Pat be Kawhi to can Pat be Harrison Barnes to now just can Pat be KCP. Hey man, KCP was a pretty strong role player on a championship caliber team. Pat has not shown the ability to be anything close to that at this point. And Karan saying, meanwhile, Julian Phillips is the real deal. Shout out. I think I saw a member of the Phillips family saying knock knock in the chat. Hope you're basking in the glory of this game. The Bulls don't get the win, but man, Julian Phillips, Mark, you know I have been high on this kid ever since we saw him as a Bulls rookie. He has been fighting to get minutes through his first couple of NBA seasons, and we've been wondering if he or Dalen will have a place in Billy's rotation out of the gate this season, even if there is a quote-unquote youth development, but they're still going to try and be competitive. They're still going to try and win, according to the Bulls brass. But Julian Phillips played so well in the first half that he started the second half in place of Patrick Williams. I'm not sure if Billy will remark on that after the game. Hopefully the GOAT can clue us in there on if that was because Julian played good, Pat did not, or if it was Billy just tinkering with things. But man, talk about confidence. 5 of 8 from downtown, including a 4 of 4 start. He finishes with a bench high 21 points, also grabbed 8 boards. What do you make of this? Do you think Julian Phillips can actually be a player and a part of this Bulls new young core moving forward?
Yes. So let me touch on Julian Phillips in a second, but my guess on the whole Pat thing not starting is probably more to do with wanting to see him more at center, I suppose. Whereas if you're starting him at power forward, then you bring him off, then you want to get him back in at backup center at some stage. I think it was more to do with that. We can ask the GOAT about that. I'm sure he'll ask Billy after that post game. But on Julian Phillips, in so many ways, he is the anti Pat Williams in many respects. And what I mean by that, I've never once questioned Julian Phillips's ability or understanding to fit in. To fit into the offense, to fit into the defense, to fit in within himself in terms of understanding his role, understanding how he fits on both sides of the ball. He just knows how to be a role guy, I guess, and that was very clear from the day he entered the league. The questions around Julian Phillips were more so around, well, initially, I guess for me at least, it was like, can this dude shoot? He proved that pretty quickly he could. And then it was just a question of, all right, is he ready? He's still young, he's still raw, obviously. Year two now going into it. But even in year 1, we saw flashes of the dude being able to play that role guy game, just understanding how to be on defense, understanding that if he's going to be in the corner, spacing in the corner, he knows how to get to the corner every single time. We'll get to the corner every single time. And every time he's there, he's literally in shot ready. He's ready to go as soon as that thing swings to him. And we saw that a number of times tonight where the ball would swing to him in the corner. And the minute he got it, he didn't even think. He just turned, faced, and shot. And he shot freaking well, 5 of 8 from 3. So, yes, I definitely can see a role for Julian Phillips in this team going forward, whatever that looks like, whatever iteration of the team we're talking about, whether it's the rebuilding Bulls or, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, whatever it might be, him being a decent role guy from there. I can see that path for Julian Phillips. So, very encouraging.
Very encouraging indeed. Forrest, shout out to you. Julian had a hell of a game tonight. You love seeing that. I mean, the Bulls need a corner 3 threat on this team. Obviously, Zach LaVine has been one his entire career, but hasn't really gotten that many chances to be an off-ball threat because they've been asking him to be a on-ball creator for so much of his career. And man, Julian knocked those down confidently. He took them confidently. And on top of that, we saw him running out in transition. This young Bulls team playing faster, a couple of great fast breaks, getting passes from whether it be Dalen Terry or Modest Buzelis, running the floor, achieving that goal, at least out of the gate in this early preseason, of what they set out to do with this younger team. Play faster. Julian Phillips absolutely could be a part of that and loved his activity on the glass. The Bulls as a team got hosed on the boards tonight. I think it was 58-46 was the final number. They gave up 19 offensive rebounds to the Grizzlies that killed them, but Julian did his part on the boards. All right, quick break, and then still plenty more to get to on CHGO Bulls postgame with our guy Mark K. Today's show brought to you by Constant Contact. Let's talk about goals for a minute. How are you tracking with the ones you set for your business earlier this year? Are you close? If you're not, do you know why you haven't hit those marks yet? You have year-end goals, and Constant Contact has what it takes to help you meet them and meet them faster. No matter how experienced you are with digital marketing, Constant Contact has the tools to make your marketing run smoother. Sell more, raise more, and build more genuine relationships with your audience with Constant Contact's suite of digital marketing tools, all made to fast-track your business. You no longer need to struggle with expensive, slow, and unmeasurable approaches to marketing your business. Own the smartphone by adding texting to your marketing strategy. Connect with over 2 billion people on social media with an all-in-one tool for posting and sharing. Plus, sell more online in less time with Constant Contact's powerful e-commerce tools. Get all the automation, integration, and reporting tools that get your marketing running seamlessly. Join the thousands of businesses and millions of people who trust Constant Contact with their marketing success. It's time to put the go in your 2024 business goals with email, social, SMS, and customized marketing campaigns built for you in just a few clicks. Ready, set, go to constantcontact.com/allcity and start your free trial today. That's constantcontact.com/allcity for your free trial. I asked the people if Mark wanted to read some ads, guys. He said no. So Big Dave's gone. You're getting all Peck ad reads tonight. Maybe I'll make Goat read one if he hops on from the United Center. We know how much Goat just loves reading those ads, right? Right, Mark?
Yeah, no, he definitely revels in it. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, he does. Postgame also brought to you by Sunnyside. Our friends at the Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, y'all, are here to elevate your Chicago fall. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They've got a crazy selection to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. Stop in one of their nearest locations for expert guidance from their staff and get their help and their advice and their offers on over 100 different strains, plus all of the other goodies they have to offer. Check out the free Spirit vapes and cartridges, all new from Good News with a lush mango flavor. These vapes are perfect for tapping into your flower power. I'm picking up my Bears game stash at Sunnyside, and you can too. Visit sunnyside.shop for Bright Buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases and a promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright Buys every day, only for 21 and over and Illinois Med card holders. And rolling right along, thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Saturday night. If you are hanging out with us on YouTube, do us a quick favor, hit that like button, and make sure you also subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Peck, our guy Mark K hanging out with us. We will hear from Goat from the UC a little later on. Trade P. Will for a box of cookies, says the Shy in the chat.
I missed you guys.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, so, yes, Pat, 0 for 2 in these preseason games. It's okay because there's still plenty of other things to talk about. You mentioned the small ball, Mark. I want to touch on that just a little bit more with Pat Will at the 5. There was a stretch of, I believe, the second quarter, maybe late first into second quarter, and then again in the second half where we saw like the youth movement 5 out there. And it was Pat at the 5. You had Dalen Terry out there, Julian Phillips out there, Josh Giddey out there, and Ayo out there. And then Giddey came out, and then I believe Modest came in. So there were 2 different like small ball looks with Pat at the 5 and all of these young horses that the Bulls are trying to develop this season. It was kind of frenetic. I think they lost their stretch of the first half on the floor together by like maybe 6 or 7 points. They didn't get worked. It was fast paced. It was just like, hey, there were a lot of turnovers involved.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I don't know how much to read into that particular second unit for a number of reasons. Like initially we saw it, Patrick matching up against Jay Huff or whatever his name is, the guy that looks old and young at both at the same time.
Yeah.
And my through that stint, my initial thinking was, okay, this is okay now, and this can be viable now because Jay Huff's probably a third string center. Like how many opportunities or how many times are you really going to see that against second units when the real stuff starts? But then we also got to see Pat matching up against Zach Edey, as I sort of alluded to before, which was interesting as well. So I was wanting to the goat about this via DMs on Twitter. I wasn't a fan. I don't like to see it. I think if Pat was a different type of player and was more assertive in a lot of different ways, particularly on the glass. I could maybe like this idea of going small with Patrick at power forward, and with Matas Pat at center and Matas at power forward. But like that's a lot to ask for Bazelis as well, given how young and thin and raw he is, to get on the glass like that, and then obviously for Pat to be that as well. But in some respects, you kind of need to play with that lineup because the Bulls have a lot of guard/wings who you want to get time into. And the only way really to do that is, I guess, not to play your veterans, whether that's Javon, Torrey, Lonzo, whomever it may be, or you go super, super small and you toy with it in the way that Billy did tonight. So I don't know how much we're actually going to see it or it being used in the regular season because obviously Jalen Smith didn't play tonight. I would assume that the Bulls would want a lot of minutes at backup center going toward him, given that he was a prized free agent for the Bulls, if you want to call him that. So, yeah, I just don't know how often we will see this. It'll probably be a random thing that Billy throws out there every now and then. But it was okay. It was okay. I'm not a fan, but I don't know. Maybe they toy with it again. But I wouldn't be surprised at all with next game. If Jalen Smith is back, if Vooch is out there, that the Bulls go more traditional, let's say.
Yeah. I think it's for the purposes of playing fast, you can do that, but I think it'll be depending on their opponent on a nightly basis. Like, no way they get away with that if the Grizz have Jaren Jackson Jr. out there tonight. I mean, like it's just it's a dicey move to make. But we do know that because mostly he's been given small lineups, small rosters rather, that Billy plays a lot of small lineups. It drives Bulls fans crazy, but we saw a couple of new interesting ones tonight with some of these new pieces. Speaking of new pieces, curious to get your thoughts on Giddey's game tonight and his first couple of preseason games, Mark. 23 minutes for him in the starting lineup tonight. A very Giddey stat line of 11, 7 dimes, 7 boards, just 3 of 10, 1 of 4 from 3. It was nice to see him knock down one. But, man, I don't know about you. To me, like, so much of this will be, like, can Giddey turn into a player that is, like, worth building with and building around? Are you going to excitedly sign him to a multi-year gigantic contract this spring? Can he shoot? Like, for all of the playmaking, whatever, and what is his defense? Oh, God. But, like, can he at least add a shooting threat to this? And you saw tonight the Grizzlies were just daring him to shoot countless times.
Yeah. Look, I'm not a Giddey fan. I understand what my accent is, where I'm situated in the globe, all those sorts of things, and how that there is a parallel. But I am not a Josh Giddey fan for a number of different reasons. But I just don't see it on the court. And the way you sort of outlined it, in terms it was a very Josh Giddey stat line, like that's how I pitched this or how I read it after when I was checking the box score post game. 7 rebounds, 7 assists, clearly can fill up the box score in terms of that side of the court. But then, as you sort of alluded to, 3 of 10 from the field, 1 from 4 from 3. I think he's 1 from 7 in preseason so far. Obviously, very small sample, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was a very Giddey-esque game. The defense isn't where it needs to be. Obviously, the shooting isn't where it needs to be. There's limited creation ability because of that. I don't see it. I don't see how it's going to work or why the investment will be what it is. It doesn't make sense to me, but the Bulls have gone down this path and they're clearly going to be using this season to test it. But yeah, I don't see or understand how it's necessarily going to work in its current shape or form. But maybe give Giddey proves me wrong, proves some other doubters wrong. But it was kind of more of the same, I guess. And in a lot of ways with Patrick, where at least through two preseason games, and again, maybe I'm being harsh on Patrick, I haven't seen anything new from Patrick. And maybe that's unfair again, given that he was injured and had surgery and probably didn't have a lot of time in the offseason to work on certain things. Giddey was playing in the offseason, at least the Olympics. He had that ankle injury or whatever it was, but I don't feel like a different Josh Giddey has turned up in Chicago than the one we saw in OKC. It feels like kind of the same, and it feels like the same issues that existed in OKC are going to carry over in Chicago, and I dare say it's going to be more problematic in Chicago because this is meant to be a worse situation by design. So how does Josh fit into that sort of situation? We're talking about Zach before, like Zach and Giddey as a backcourt pairing makes sense, but how does it work more holistically? How does it work if you take Zach LaVine off this team and all of a sudden Kobe White is meant to be the primary option and there's no one there beyond Kobe? Like that puts more pressure on Giddey, and that probably makes things even harder for Giddey, which probably makes him look even worse. So Look, I don't have high hopes of it working. I'm rambling now, but again, it's 2 games. I've been told I should shut up and wait and see, but I don't like where this is headed.
Rob in the comments is giving Giddey a little credit, saying he did get the ball a lot to the hot hand. Mentioning those 7 assists that he did have tonight. Ost is saying he's just such a non-threat to score, saying that Giddey does his playmaking thing more so in the half court, but he has to develop some scoring ability. Chocolate Salty Bulls, meanwhile, saying Giddey is the epitome of empty calories. Johnny saying, forget the 3 ball. Giddey needs to be able to finish inside. Yeah, he missed some bunnies too. He had like a couple of like weird like quasi floaters, but kind of closer to the rim than a typical floater, and none of them went in. So I don't know what those shots were from Giddey, but like if you can't hit those, like get him out of your shot selection. Like Giddey was talking. Was it at media day or an even more recent interview than that about like the analytics of the most efficient shots that you can take on the floor and like at the rim and 3-point shots. It's like, okay, if you know this game as well and you know the analytics of what is a high value shot, what the hell were some of those floaters you were taking? I am interested also what you think about this, Ayo playing great in their first preseason game, kind of brought the Bulls back after the terrible start off the bench. A lot of Bulls fans feeling like after the season he had that Ayo is worthy of being in the starting lineup, Mark. And Giddey's arrival basically making that not the reality out of the gate. Obviously, Ayo did start tonight because Kobe sat, and Ayo kind of had a rocky game, and then left with the injury. But what do you make of this? Like, which is better for the starting 5, Ayo or Giddey conversation?
Yeah, look, I've been trying to not be as online this season. Let's see how it goes. But I did take a rare pause to voice my frustration after one preseason game and sort of talking about, I just don't think it makes sense to have Giddey out there with Zach, Kobe, and particularly when your center is Vucevic. Like that to me doesn't make sense, particularly defensively. Now, it can make sense if the idea here is to lose as many games and no one really cares about the outcome, all that sort of stuff. Yes, it probably is not a big deal in that regard. Because it's probably going to lead you to a very bad defense and a just an unwatchable game, I suppose, or an unwatchable team, at least defensively. But you still want to see some semblance of two-way basketball. You still want to see lineups that do make functional sense out there. And I don't think Giddey being paired with both LaVine and Kobe, in addition to Vooch, this doesn't make a lot of sense from that standpoint. So for me, I think should be starting because I think he does make a lot of sense next to Zach, next to Kobe, because you need someone to be guarding on ball. You need someone to be guarding those bigger wings, which would be Patrick Williams. In that sense, it does make kind of functional sense, that 5-man lineup. Now, again, it's not going to win games. It's not going to lead you to the postseason or anything like that. So what does it all ultimately matter? But I kind of also think Ayo deserves that. Like, I think the thing that bothers me about players like Ayo is they're so team first that in some respects, I wonder if these guys get taken advantage of. And maybe that's being too strong, but like Billy knows that he can trust Ayo, that he can tell Ayo, you're starting tonight, you're coming off the bench, whatever it might be. And he will do that because Ayo is that team guy. And I just wonder if at times like Ayo loses out because of that. So, and given how he was progressing last season, I think he deserved and earned a starting role this season, but clearly got supplanted because of the Giddey trade. So I don't like it. I think Ayo should be starting, but I don't think it's going to happen.
THD is like Ayo attacking the rim, but also a bowling ball, says Rob. Yeah, I mean, Ayo and his transition game is, I think, great for what Billy is going to try and do with this Bulls offense this season. He also, if he can keep last season's, 40.3% from 3 mark consistent, or at least close to that, is also a 3-point threat that this team desperately needs on the floor because there aren't many around to offer that up. He also is just clearly already a much better defensive player than Josh Giddey is, or probably ever will be. And, this team that's going to have all kinds of defensive problems. Ayo, not quite to the same level of Caruso or even Prime Lonzo before he got hurt, can make up for a lot of that with his defensive ability, switchability, and tenacity out there. So it seems like he's a person who makes more sense. But again, because of all of the politics of why Josh Giddey is here, he's going to be in that starting lineup. Okay, one more quick break, then we'll come back, continue to get our thoughts and y'all's out there in Bulls Nation on Bulls tonight, taking the L to the Grizzlies in preseason game number 2. Plus, we'll hear from Will Gottlieb from the UC. Tonight's post-game show brought to you all by our friends at Blue Chew. Blue Chew, Mark. You sure you don't want to do this one? They say first impressions are important. What about lasting impressions? That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew helps boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can stay hard and perform at your very best. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready whenever an opportunity arises. You might think, does it work? Do you think you need to try it? Try it free for a month and see. What's the harm? You're going to love it, and your partner is going to love it too. And we've got a special deal for our listeners right now. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 for shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY, ALLCITY, to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring our podcast. After you get that Blue Chew order taken care of, maybe you've got some DIY projects around the house. Maybe you need some new flooring. And if you do need new flooring, you got to check out our friends at Empire today. With Empire, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats in the market, but Empire can't be beaten on quality or service or speed. So all their competitors can try to do is advertise low quality products at basement prices that Empire simply doesn't even bother to carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does promise those low prices are just putting crap floors in your home that they wouldn't put in their own homes. And that's the truth. Check out their virtual floor designer, a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy to use. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. They pride themselves on convenient shop at home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what those floors look like with your lighting, with your decor, with all other elements of your home. They also service their own warranties. If an issue does arise, just call Empire. They service all of their warranties themselves. No tracking down manufacturers or third parties' phone numbers. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. 588-2300. Mark.
Empire.
Today. He's still got it, folks. I knew I'd sneak Mark into one of those ad reads just for a second. just need to hear those.
You got me for a second. That's all I got.
Mark, of the young guys, we saw a lot of minutes for Dalen tonight. We saw a lot of minutes for Julian, who we already touched on. Ayo left with the injury. Mata's got 23 minutes. He did have a rough shooting night, just 1 of 9 from the field, 1 of 5 from downtown. But again, loved Matas's activity in transition and on the defensive end. Who's the one who, after tonight's game, you're sitting here saying, like, well, that guy actually needs minutes and needs more minutes than he's getting or is anticipated to get?
Yeah, so I'm not considering, in answering this question, I'm not considering guys like Kobe, Ayo, and Pat young guys anymore because, they're in year 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be.
Okay. How old is Patrick Williams now? Like 30?
He's 23 going on 33, it seems. But look, no, in terms of obviously Matas, Dalen, who has Julian Phillips we talked about before, THT, if we consider him a young guy, probably not at this stage. But
he's
I think
45.
Yeah. My answer to this question, in part because I want to shout out Big Dave, but I think Dalen Terry's probably been the most impressive young guy through 2 preseason games. And maybe, again, it's because he's coming off such a low base for me and having such low expectations. So maybe that helps. this conversation, I suppose. But I think what Dalen has done in both of these games, at minimum, and we kind of already knew this, but I think he's built on it, is that he can come in and disturb games with defense, which he's done in both preseason games. But more generally, he's been getting on the glass. He's been, throwing around wild arms around. His playmaking has been very evident. 2 steals, 2 blocks tonight. Been getting in the lanes. Now, again, the ultimate caveat in this specific game is that they were playing against third-string Grizzlies. So how much will this actually carry over? Same thing against the Cavs. Wasn't a super serious game. Obviously, preseason never really is. But I've liked what I've seen from Dalen Terry. Does that buy him more minutes in the rotation? I don't know, because it comes back to what I said initially when we started this podcast. Is like, what are the Bulls going to ultimately be doing? Like, are they going to play Javon Carter, Torrey Craig, Lonzo Ball, or are they going to go more younger as part of that 9-10 man rotation that Billy initially starts the season with? So I don't know if this play or this level of play has justified Dalen Terry in terms of getting 10, 15, 20 minutes every single night. But I guess what I'm saying is, previously, where a boy by, I was thinking, okay, they would be lucky if this dude can turn into a 12th man. I'm now thinking, okay, maybe there is a path for him being a 9th guy on a reasonable team, something potentially even more. So, credit to Dalen Terry. I think his jumper looks a lot better too. I didn't mention that before, but it looks looks more stable. Doesn't look as erratic. Still a little bit wayward, but it doesn't look as problematic as in years past. So before, where I was talking about like Patrick Williams, Josh Giddey not necessarily looking like they've added something to their game, I kind of feel the opposite is true for Dalen Terry, where it does look like when you watch him play, at least through 2 preseason games, it kind of feels like he has been out there working and doing and adding things to his game, and I think that's transferred.
And speaking of adding things to his game, I mean, that one transition he had in particular where he was, running point in a coast-to-coast scenario, it did end up with a turnover. He tried to throw a no-look pass to somebody who was making a baseline cut under the basket, but his handles leading up to that turnover, like, crossing people over, hesitation steps, like his handles look tight. And that was always, for me, a thing that, along with the shooting, Dalen needed to get better at. I hear through our producer Law on the draw that we have a certain someone waiting in the wings, Mark. I think it's time for a certain goat to talk to us.
Oh.
That's where he's the goat! The goat!
Joining us on that Goat Talk hotline, it's our guy, Will the Goat Gottlieb, our Bulls reporter and journalist, joining us from the UC. God, I missed that video cue so much. First Bulls home game of a fresh season. Goat, how we doing, buddy?
I swear we got rid of this guy, and here he is back on my screen.
I found Mark.
Dude, it's great to see you guys.
I sent Will a DM today. I said, I'm going to be on the post-game show. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Do you know what he said to me, Matt? Do you know what he said to me? I will read it verbatim. Because there's this image out there that Will the Goat Gottlieb is this nice, humble, good young man that every father or son would love this guy to come home, or to bring their daughter to bring this type of guy home. But this is what he said to me. He said, "What makes you think I want to call into a post-game knowing you're going to be on?" Just what a rude guy, man.
You couldn't just read it normally?
I felt that tone. I
was just teasing you. It's always great to see you, Mark. I'm glad you're on the show, but my only regret is that I don't have the full hour with you. This is going to need to be rectified somehow.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you could have just fired up this post game at the start, and then I would have had to be at the United Center handling actual responsibilities. I don't want to do that. Speaking of actual responsibilities, Goat, can you catch us up on any updates Billy had for us? Ayo leaving the game with an injury. Was it on that play where he took a hard fall and looked like maybe a Grizzlies player fell on top of him? We also got a DNP for Kobe tonight, as well as Jalen Smith. What injury updates do you have for us?
Yeah, Ayo, I think he said he got a stinger. I'm not really sure what play it happened, but he said he wanted to come back in. I don't think it seemed too serious. Jalen Smith had some knee soreness. I believe they held him out of shoot around today. And I think they're just kind of being cautious with guys in general because this is the preseason and not necessarily like meaningful basketball games. So they're being cautious with him. I think same thing with Kobe. He had some soreness the other day I can't remember if it was a knee or like a hamstring quad area. But again, not something I think is going to be anything long term. And then You guys kind of heard the latest with Lonzo, I think, from a couple days ago. The plan is to get him into 2 of the last 3, or maybe the last 2 preseason games. We don't know the exact plan for that yet, but it seems like we are going to get to see him here either Monday or Wednesday.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Am
interesting.
I missing anyone?
I think that's everyone.
Giddey was fine. Pat, he like jammed his wrist at one point. And I was just talking to him on his way out of the locker room, but he had some x-rays. They were negative. Doesn't seem like he's too worried about, but he was taped up his wrist, and it was the opposite wrist of the one that he had the surgery on. So
Okay.
I don't think any of it's serious.
So was that why Julian started the second half instead of Pat?
Yes, that is correct. So Billy thought that was it for Pat. It turned out not to be, and so that's why he started Julian, and then Pat came back in later. But yeah, I think Pat's just kind of like working his way back into shape, and then obviously you get like a minor thing here and there, and that can slow you down. So glad to see he got back in the game, but I don't think that this is going to be like long term for anyone really.
William, interesting to get your thoughts on the rotation, the mix of the rotation, particularly with Javon and Torrey playing more tonight than they did the previous game. Yeah, just interested to get your thoughts on that, particularly. Obviously, those guys maybe playing in the expense of some of the young guys, and makes it a little bit easier when Patrick and Ayo play less. But just your general thoughts on the vets getting some burn tonight.
Yeah, I think part of it had to do with the fact that Kobe and Jalen Smith were out. I know Adama Sanogo played a couple of minutes, but the Bulls were basically trying to work on some small lineups, and that requires you to play like either Patrick or Torrey Craig or Buzelis at the 5. And then, I think an underrated element of that is not only just having like a smaller center, but that means you kind of have to have bigger wings. And so that's like the impetus behind putting in Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry on the wing alongside either Modest or Torrey Craig or Patrick Williams at the 5, is to just get a little bit bigger across the front line. And so you do that, it allows you to switch a little bit more, it allows you to rebound a little bit more. I thought Julian did a really good job. Dalen did a really good job rebounding the ball tonight. And I think that's just going to have to be kind of a change up that they go to a little bit more frequently this year. They don't have Drummond anymore, who was, one of the best, most reliable backup centers in the league, to be able to go with like a true big for 48 full minutes. And then also, at times they went with the 2 bigs. They don't have that. And so they have to get flexible. But I think they also want to use this opportunity to make sure that they get minutes for guys like Julian and Dalen. And then, Torrey Craig is still around. You got to play him a little bit. Javon Carter got in the game a little bit earlier this time. We'll see if that, we'll see what his role looks like when you bring Kobe and Lonzo back in to the rotation. It's just going to be hard to find minutes for everyone. And I think the preseason is a time where you can try to do that.
Goat, did y'all get a chance to chat with Zach after this game tonight? And if so, what did he have to say after a very dominant performance? Quiet preseason game 1, but he reminded everybody tonight what the healthy elite scorer version of Zach LaVine is.
Yeah, he was awesome. Got like the first 9 points of the game, a couple of threes, a dunk really early. He had a couple of dunks on the day, and then I'm sure you guys read off the stat line, but 28 points on 9 of 12 shooting, 6 of 6 from 3. That is pretty good. And, he in 22 minutes, I feel like he would have scored 45 or 50 if he played normal minutes in that one. So, Zach's in good spirits. I think he's, obviously like not afraid to shoot, not afraid to get his own, but also trying to do it decisively within the flow of the offense. That was something that Billy Donovan talked about after the game, is just like, he's not really waiting around. He's not really like, feeling anything out. He's just like catch, shoot, it's like that. And I think he really likes that. He said like, that's great with me. Like Giddey's setting me up, or he's like able to just get off of a little pick and roll or a little handoff from Vooch and like pull up for 3 at the top of the key. Like I think that when you remove the like overthinking, pounding the ball too much dribbling, too many decisions to make, like when you remove all that stuff, that's where Zach's at his best. And so I think this could be really good for him. And obviously, like, we'll see how things shake out long term with him and this team. But this is exactly what you want to see from Zach in, granted, a game that's, you're not playing against the best competition in the world, but he just looked really, really dominant.
Yeah, William, I'm not sure how much we can actually learn from preseason games generally, at least the first few preseason games. But one of the things that we can quickly pick up on is maybe where things are going from a rotation standpoint, particularly with that last roster spot. And through 2 games, it seems like Taylor Horton-Tucker is going to shoot himself into that spot. or at least that's what it seems like his mentality is. But I'm just interested to know, one, if you're hearing whispers as to where things may be headed with that roster spot, but two, more generally, like from your perspective, is it kind of feeling like THT is sort of rounding into that maybe position and maybe taking that off the Tim as an example?
Yeah, it's interesting because, he's obviously like a veteran in this league, but he's still only 23, which I thought he was older than that. So, but clearly like a guy who's kind of good at commanding and running an offense with a bunch of young guys around him. Like they really leaned on him with Dalen out there, with Julian out there, with Adama or Modis out there. And I think, that kind of experience as a scoring guard who obviously can make some plays is a good thing. And I think they value that. At the same time, they're aware of the fact that they've got a lot of guards on this roster and, not a lot of bigs and not a lot of, pure catch and shoot floor spacer types the way OB is. So I don't know exactly what will happen. Billy was actually asked about that after the game today, and he said, he hasn't had a chance to talk with management, but obviously likes a lot of what Taylor Horton Tucker is doing. He's obviously playing a lot more than OB and playing a lot more than other guys like Kenneth Lofton and EJ Liddell, who are on the roster. So I could see it, but yeah, I mean, they've still got DJ Stewart back there. They didn't have Kobe and Lonzo today. That they will be back. So you don't want to like pass up on talent because you're in a situation where you need to like accumulate as much talent as possible. But at the same time, you need to put that talent in the best position as possible to succeed. And it may be a little bit difficult to do that if you're not able to find minutes for guys, or you have to put them into a position that isn't their natural fit because you've also got other guys that need the ball in their hands and are guards. So it's challenging, but I don't think they've necessarily made any decisions about it just yet. But clearly, Taylor Horton Tucker is a guy who, has commanded a spot, and I think like especially the younger guys are really gravitating towards him and enjoying playing with him.
Goat, you wrote a column earlier this week, getting Billy's thoughts on what Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry would each have to do to get themselves a spot in his rotation this season with all of these people that Billy has. We saw big minutes from each of them tonight. Who is that? Is that Kyle Williams? Shout out Kyle Williams. What's up, buddy boy? Oh, hard at work in that media room, of course. But so, obviously with no Ayo in the second half of this game, leaving with injury, and no Kobe, we saw plenty of Dalen, plenty of Julian Phillips, 25 minutes, 27 minutes, 21 points for Julian, stuff in the stat sheet. Dalen Terry, 11 points, also stuffed the stat sheet with boards, assists, steals, doing everything he does. Curious if Billy had any thoughts on the performance of either of those young guys tonight, or if you got a chance to speak to either of them individually.
Yeah, I talked to all of them. Billy's super interesting because he's very candid about how he feels about things, and he's not really like hiding anything, but he also dresses it up in a way that like very much makes it sound like not critical. And I think that is really important, especially when you're talking about some of these younger guys. Like clearly there's some stuff, and he used this analogy with Modis, which I think works for these guys. So I'll use it here too, which is like, Modis was 1 for 9 tonight. And, I'm sure that if he had completed 1 or 2 of the dunks that he tried, people would all be talking about the highlights, but since he didn't, now they're going to be talking about 1 for 9. And he doesn't really try to view it through that lens. He tries to see it through like, what are the areas of the game that he's impacting positively or negatively, and how can he improve on those? And I think the same can be said for Dalen and Julian. Like Julian was outstanding shooting the ball today. He got out in transition. He had a couple of nice dunks. He rebounded well. He was really attacking the glass, I thought. But there's also times where like the game is just moving too fast. And he gave another example with, 2 of the veteran players, Josh Giddey and Zach LaVine. They drove it from the slot. Defense pulled over from the low man side, and they swung it to the opposite corner, open 3. And if Dalen or Julian would do that, then they were like trying to go up and finish over Zach Edey, which is like not going to be a good idea. He's like, we shot 46% at the rim against the Cavs. And what does that tell you? It tells you that we are going up and trying to finish over Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen instead of trying to spray it out to the corner for 3-point shots that are open because the help is pulling over. And so I think it's challenging for some of those younger players to have to not only learn that stuff, but now learn it at a pace that they're playing, which is much faster than last year. There are easier elements of that too, because like the decisions are kind of made for you in some instances, but you still got to like react to them really quickly. And I think that is, it's just an experience thing. Like those guys are going to have to learn that. I don't think And Billy said it, like, there's nothing wrong with them. It's not that I would expect more of them, but like those are the things that we're working on. And I think you can say both of them about Dalen and Julian too. Obviously, both did some great stuff. I thought Dalen defended at the point of attack really well. They're trying to put him in situations where he can get downhill coming off of screens to where he's not being forced to do too much off the dribble creation, and that can put his passing into the game or driving into the game. He was unafraid to shoot it a couple times. He record scratched a couple there too, but you can see the improvements. But I think overall, it's just like this element of like reading the game, reacting to the way the defense is guarding you, and making those decisions quickly. And that's a reps thing. That's an experience thing. And so I think they'll get there. But it was cool to hear Billy like speak so candidly about what goes into player development, and it being more than just understanding your positioning and assignment defensively, or making or missing the corner three that you took. It's like reading the game, reacting to it, and seeing in real time like what decision needs to be made next to put your team in the best position to get a clean shot off or make the next play. And so I think, again, that's just a reps thing and an experience thing, but it's good that both of those guys are getting out there.
William, do you think we learnt anything about this new offense that you're sort of speaking about, or connected to that, against the Memphis Grizzlies third string effectively? Did we learn anything new about the offense, Josh Giddey and how he's leading it, or is it still way too soon to sort of read into anything and really capture or understand how this is actually going to function?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, you can see what they're trying to do, right? Like whether or not they're going against the first team or making or missing shots, like you can see the actions that they're running, the pace that they're getting into those shots. And obviously, when you're playing against a real, first unit playoff caliber team like the Grizzlies are, that could change. But I think what you're seeing in terms of them getting into like these quick pistol actions, getting into these handoffs to get downhill early into the offense, just getting the ball out of bounds quickly, getting up the court. Like I think those are themes that they're going to, implement regardless of who they're playing or, which unit is out there on the court for them, whether it's the starters or the bench unit. And so I think that's the kind of stuff that you can see. I think in terms of the defensive side of the ball, being a little bit more, willing to experiment and going small and trying to figure out ways to just be creative with a roster that is very different from previous seasons. So, it's kind of a sidestep of the answer, but I think a lot of it is just like, what are the basic principles that they've been working on in training camp and in these first few weeks here, and trying to implement that. And then, what else do they need to add on top of it? Or what else do they need to fix from these first couple of games that they need to adjust and change? And I think that's going to be kind of like the evolving process. So I think you can count on more threes. I think you can count on a faster pace, maybe some more experimental lineups, whether it's three guards or two bigs or, three wings playing 3-4-5. But I think that like one of the questions that I have about this team in general is like, what is their identity going to be outside of we're trying to play fast? Because, they can say they want to run in transition as much as they want. That's at best 15% of your game. And so who are you during the other 85% of possessions? And how do you create a cohesive offense and defense around that?
Real quick before we wrap up, Will, you have been at the Advocate Center for the last couple of weeks as training camp and then preseason practices have gotten underway. We were there for media day, but day one, game one, back in the Madhouse tonight on this gig, on this beat. What were the vibes like at the United Center for the Bulls' first home game of the 24-25 season?
It's crazy walking back in here. It's like, it's for a team that obviously whose season ended in April and didn't extend into the playoffs. Like it's been 6 months since I was last here. And that means like, it's a 6 month on, 6 month off kind of thing. And so it just feels like it's been a really long time, but you walk back in and it's kind of the same feelings, the same vibes around the team. And obviously there's different players in the locker room. There's different expectations with this group, but it's still always really cool to like walk into the United Center and walk on the floor and take some pictures of guys warming up and, hang out with the other media members and eat dinner with them and hang out and get to talk to the players and interview them and write about it. So, I think I texted you both, like, I can't believe I'm back here doing this right now, but, it's like, I feel like the lead up to it is like, there's anticipation with that. And then as soon as you're here, it's like kind of the same thing.
Well, Get home safe. Glad you got the first one under the belt. Everybody read Will's stuff. AllCHGO.com is where you can find his great write-ups on Bulls games and other Bulls reporting all season long. Follow him on Twitter, Will_Gottlieb. We'll let you go, buddy. Get home safe tonight. We'll see you back at the office soon.
Love you, Mark.
Love you, Will.
I'm gonna take a couple days off at the end of October, Mark. So maybe maybe we can bring you in and fill in for me, and then you and Goat can get a little more one-on-one time.
Yeah, we'll see. Where are you off to?
Catch a flight back to Chicago? Oh, I'm going down to Texas to see my nieces. Just a long weekend. So flying down there on Halloween because I really want to go see my cute nieces in their Halloween costumes. It just worked out. Like the entirety of the Bulls schedule, like October, November, December, that was the only weekend where they don't have 2 games between Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I was like, well, that's the weekend I'm getting out of town.
Yeah, nice. Very good. That's nice.
Everything good over there in Mark K world. We miss you, man. Our listeners and our viewers miss you. I'm so glad you hopped on ttonight.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure if your listeners miss me. I was listening to the last show.
I know some of them do.
What did you say? I think you said this was going to be a treat for listeners, where I think it was probably more of a trick if we're going to keep to that Halloween theme. But yeah, look, I don't think people miss me, and that's fine. I get it. But it's good. It's my son's 3.5 now. He's growing. My daughter's 6 months. We'll talk about 6 months just before. So basically, the Bulls season ended essentially last time when she was roughly born. So yeah, no, it's good. Parent life is good. I can't complain. So I'm happy.
You're so happy that Peck just left us. He's like, I can't hear what Mark is saying.
He must be overjoyed to hear that I'm just faring well without the Bulls, and he's having to continue doing what it is he's doing, which is obviously hosting the best Bulls post-game show going around, or the best Bulls podcast. But I will say, even though I have taken a break from the Bulls and I'm not part of CHGO anymore, all that sort of stuff, I haven't missed an episode. I won't miss an episode. I love hearing my friends talk about the Bulls, and it is great to remain connected to this, to this great podcast, this great community through that way. So shout out to everyone out there for listening, obviously, and I'm happy to be a fan now. It's nice. A fan of CHGO, I should say, and maybe less so the Bulls, but a fan of CHGO.
Pack, you can't hear us, but let's see if you can talk.
He can't hear us.
Oh, come on, Pack.
Should we just wrap it up?
We can wrap it up. What do you say?
Do you want to take us away? What's the usual rundown? I don't listen that far into the podcast, I should say.
Well, let's see. We didn't get to do any sort of goon of the night because the Bulls lost.
Yeah, they lost.
So,
oh well, tough break.
We're good with all that, but the main thing is,
let's just call it. I think we got the main thing out of the way.
One more try. Let's see. Pat, can you hear us? No,
I got nothing.
Oh, we hear you.
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you.
I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. Anyway,
that's all right.
We'll wrap this up. Bulls Nation, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Mark K, appreciate you for joining us, buddy. Always good to see you. And shout out to Law on the Draw for producing. Follow Mark, MK Hoops. He might not tweet about the Bulls as much anymore, but he's still there. I am at Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Have a great Sunday. Hey, follow CHGO Bears coverage all day tomorrow, leading up to, during, and after their Bears game in London, 8:30 a.m. Central Time kickoff. Make sure you set those alarms, y'all. And we'll be back on Monday for the Bulls' 3rd preseason game. For Law, Goat, and Mark K, Peck saying thanks for tuning in. Much love, Bulls Nation. Hit the like button on your way out. See Red, be good.
We all silly like the mayor.